The elevator plunged into darkness between the 42nd and the 43rd floors. Rebecca Hayes gripped the cold metal rail, her prosthetic leg locked beneath a charcoal suit that had commanded 100 boardrooms. 28 years old, the youngest female CEO in Silicon Valley, she was alone in ways that went deeper than the blackout wrapping around them. The emergency lights flickered on, dim, orange, insufficient. That's when she saw them. A maintenance worker with paint under his fingernails and a little girl clutching a worn backpack. "Mom says people who work really hard get special powers," the child whispered, staring at the place where Rebecca's left leg met carbon fiber. "Is that your superpower?" Harper Bennett, 7 years old, had no fear in those eyes. Her father, Lucas, stood behind her, calloused hands steady on her shoulders, watching Rebecca's throat work against tears she hadn't allowed in a decade. 60 seconds until the doors opened, 10 years of armor cracking. They didn't know it yet, but that elevator would demand everything: the empire, the isolation, the woman she'd become to survive. Rebecca had built her fortress deliberately. The penthouse on the 48th floor stretched across 3,000 square feet of glass and steel, overlooking a city that never questioned her authority. She'd become CEO of Catalyst Technologies at 24, growing it to 300 employees. The numbers defined her: revenue growth, market valuation, awards lining her office walls. What didn't appear in Forbes or TechCrunch was the other number, the one she counted each night when she came home to silence and removed the prosthetic leg that cost more than most people's cars. 10 years since the accident that took her leg and the boy who'd promised to stay. He'd sent a text from the hospital: "I can't do this. I'm sorry." Something inside her had calcified into stone. She rebuilt herself the way she'd later rebuilt companies. Methodically, ruthlessly. Stanford in 3 years instead of 4. Walk, then run, then conquer every room with confidence that made people forget she was anything other than brilliant and untouchable. She dressed to conceal the prosthetic, moved to minimize her gait, built a life where nobody got close enough to see her remove it at the end of the day. Her office reflected this: angular, nothing soft, awards everywhere. She'd beaten every odd. The price was loneliness, but loneliness was safer than vulnerability. The morning after the elevator incident, Rebecca arrived at her office early. She made coffee with the precision she applied to everything. Measure, grind, pour water heated to exactly 200 degrees. These small controls mattered when so much else felt chaotic. The board meeting went smoothly. European expansion approved, quarterly earnings exceeded projections. Everything was proceeding according to plan. Everything was under control. Then she saw him through the glass wall. Lucas Bennett pushing a maintenance cart, his daughter beside him with that worn backpack. School must have ended early. Rebecca watched Harper say something that made her father laugh, his whole face transforming with unguarded joy. The sound traveled through the glass, high and bright and completely unburdened. She told herself to look away. Instead, she stood, moved to the glass. Lucas caught her staring, said something to Harper, then guided her toward Rebecca's office door. Harper knocked, tentative but determined. Lucas opened it with an apologetic expression. "Miss Hayes, Harper wanted to apologize for yesterday. I told her she shouldn't have asked about your leg like that." The girl stepped forward, solemn. "I'm sorry if I made you sad. Dad says I ask too many questions sometimes." Rebecca looked down at this small person who'd seen through her in 60 seconds. "You didn't make me sad," she heard herself say. "You surprised me. Nobody's ever called it a superpower before." Harper's face lit up. "But it is. You can probably kick really hard with it, and it never gets tired like regular legs, and it looks like something from the future." Lucas placed a hand on his daughter's shoulder. "We should let Ms. Hayes get back to work, baby." But Harper wasn't finished. "Do you have other superpowers? Dad says really smart people can see things other people miss." Rebecca surprised herself by laughing, actually laughing, something genuine that felt rusty from disuse. "What grade are you in, Harper?" The girl's enthusiasm dimmed. "Second grade? It's okay. The work is easy, but some of the kids are mean sometimes. They say Dad can't afford the right clothes for me, and that I shouldn't bring him to school events because he's just a janitor. Rebecca felt her chest tighten. Lucas shifted uncomfortably. Harper, we really should, but his daughter continued. They don't know he's the best dad in the whole world. He makes me pancakes shaped like stars every Sunday, and when I have nightmares about Mom, he stays up all night with me. The mention of the mother hung in the air. Rebecca saw Lucas's jaw tighten, saw grief flash across his face before he controlled his expression. That's enough, sweetheart. Ms. Hayes has work to do. He was already guiding Harper toward the door, already retreating. Rebecca felt something rise in her throat. Wait, she said. Harper, how are you with numbers? The girl brightened. Really good. Dad says I'm a math whiz. I can do multiplication in my head up to 12 times 12. Rebecca nodded slowly. I have a problem. I need someone to help me test some new educational software our company is developing. Would you be interested in being a consultant? $50 an hour, 2 hours a week after school. Lucas's expression shifted to caution. Ms. Hayes, that's very kind, but we couldn't. Rebecca held up a hand. We need authentic feedback from someone in our target demographic. Harper looked at her father with pleading eyes. Dad, that's $100 a week. Lucas's face flushed. What boy? He asked simply. Why would you do this? Rebecca could have lied. Instead, she said, because your daughter saw something in me that I'd forgotten was there, and because nobody should be ashamed of honest work, no matter what second graders think. Lucas nodded slowly. Okay, but this stays professional. I won't have Harper thinking she's charity. Rebecca felt the sting. Understood. Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4. Harper bounced on her toes. Can we start today? Rebecca checked her watch. Why not? That's how it began. 2 afternoons a week, Harper became a fixture in Rebecca's office. The girl would settle at the conference table, focused and determined. Lucas would return to his maintenance duties, checking in periodically with careful distance. Rebecca would explain concepts to Harper, watching as the girl navigated prototypes with brutal honesty. This part is boring. You should add more colors. And why does the character have to be a boy? But it wasn't just about software. Harper would talk about her mother who died from cancer, about dad working 3 jobs to keep them in their apartment, about wanting to be an astronaut someday. She talked with the openness children have before they learn to guard their stories. One Tuesday, Harper asked directly while working on geometry, "What happened to your leg?" Rebecca set down her pen. She'd perfected a dozen deflections, but something about this child made her want to be honest. I was in a car accident when I was 18. The doctors couldn't save my left leg below the knee. Harper looked up. Did it hurt? Rebecca nodded. Yes, a lot, for a very long time. The girl considered this. Does it still hurt now? Rebecca thought about both kinds of pain. Sometimes, but I've learned to live with it. Harper returned to her geometry, then said without looking up, Mom's cancer hurt a lot too. After she died, I thought maybe the hurt would stop, but it didn't. It just changed into a different kind of hurt. But Dad says the hurt means we love someone, and that loving someone is always worth it, even when it hurts after. Do you think that's true? Rebecca couldn't answer right away. She thought about the decades she'd spent building walls instead of connections. I don't know. I used to think avoiding hurt was the smartest choice, but maybe your dad is right. Harper smiled. You should ask him yourself. He knows a lot about love. That evening, Lucas came to collect Harper, looking exhausted in faded jeans and an old t-shirt, but his face softened when he saw his daughter. Rebecca watched them together, saw the easy affection, and felt the loneliness of her life settle heavily. Thank you for this, Lucas said. It means more than you know. There was something in his voice that made Rebecca look closer, pride fighting desperation. She's brilliant, Rebecca said. You're raising someone extraordinary. Lucas's smile was sad. Her mother deserves most of that credit. I'm just trying not to mess up what she started. Some days I'm not sure I'm succeeding. You are, Rebecca said firmly. Harper knows she's loved. That's everything. Lucas met her eyes then, really met them, and Rebecca felt something shift. He saw her, not the CEO, not the woman who'd overcome adversity, just her. It terrified her. We should go, he said. Harper needs dinner. He hesitated. Would you like to join us? Nothing fancy, just mac and cheese and whatever vegetables I can convince her to eat. Every instinct told her to decline, to maintain boundaries, to retreat into safety. I'd like that, she heard herself say. The apartment was in a neighborhood Rebecca's GPS marked as high crime. The building's paint was peeling. The lobby smelled of cooking spices and old carpet. Lucas unlocked 3 separate locks. The space inside was maybe 500 square feet, but meticulously clean. Everything had its place. Children's drawings covered the refrigerator. A bookshelf made from cinder blocks held more books than should fit. Harper kicked off her shoes and ran to her stuffed animals. Lucas moved through the tiny kitchen with efficient grace. Can I help? Rebecca asked. Lucas glanced at her, surprised. You cook? She laughed. I can follow instructions on a box. Rebecca found herself sitting at a folding table, eating boxed macaroni and steamed broccoli from mismatched plates, and it was the most comfortable she'd felt in years. The conversation flowed easily. Harper dominated with elaborate stories. Lucas interjected occasionally. Rebecca mostly listened, content to exist in their orbit. After dinner, Harper showed Rebecca her bedroom, really just a corner sectioned off with a curtain. The walls held Harper's artwork upon work, including a watercolor of 3 stick figures labeled Mom, Dad, and Me. Rebecca stood in front of that painting, understanding what it meant for Harper to share this grief that shaped her world. Harper yawned. Lucas checked his watch. Time for bed, baby. Harper looked at Rebecca. Will you come back for more software testing? Rebecca felt the weight of that question. Yes, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Lucas walked her to the door. In the narrow entryway, they stood close enough that Rebecca could smell sawdust and honest work. Thank you for being kind to her, he said. She's had a rough couple of years. Rebecca wanted to say that Harper was giving her something too. Instead, she said, She's remarkable. You're doing a good job. Lucas shook his head. I'm barely keeping my head above water. 3 jobs, and I still can't give her the things she deserves. I'm failing her every day. You're giving her yourself, Rebecca said. Your time, your attention, your love. That's not failing. That's everything. Lucas looked at her with an expression she couldn't quite read, recognition, as if he saw the same loneliness he carried. Good night, Rebecca, he said, using her first name for the first time. She left, feeling the distance between where she stood and where she lived, wondering if it was measured in miles or in choices. The weeks developed a rhythm. Tuesdays and Thursdays, Harper came for software testing and homework. More often than not, Rebecca invited them to dinner afterward. Sometimes restaurants where Harper could color. Sometimes the apartment for meals cobbled together from Lucas's pantry. Once pizza on the floor because the table wasn't big enough. Rebecca learned the texture of their lives. Lucas worked building maintenance from morning to afternoon, drove for rideshare until late, did construction on weekends, 5 hours of sleep a night. His wife, lost to cancer, he'd loved completely, still did, but was learning to exist in the space after grief. Rebecca shared in return small pieces, her parents' death, the accident, the years of rebuilding. She didn't talk about the betrayal that shaped her more than the accident itself, but Lucas seemed to understand anyway. One evening after Harper fell asleep on the couch, Rebecca and Lucas sat talking over good coffee she'd brought. They'd been discussing Harper's progress when Lucas asked the question, Why us? Why are you really doing this? Rebecca could have deflected. Because I'm lonely, she said. Because I've spent 10 years building a life that looks successful but feels empty. Because your daughter saw me in a way nobody has since my accident. And because being around you both makes me remember what it feels like to be human instead of just successful. Lucas didn't look away. I know that feeling. After my wife died, I thought if I could just work hard enough, provide enough, the emptiness would go away. But you can't outrun loneliness. You can only decide whether to live with it alone or risk letting someone else in. Rebecca felt tears prick her eyes. Letting people in means giving them the power to hurt you. And I've had enough hurt for one lifetime. Lucas nodded. Me too. But then I look at Harper, and I realize love isn't something you can regulate. It just is. And trying to protect yourself from it means cutting yourself off from the only thing that makes life worth living. Rebecca reached across the table, covered his hand with hers. Lucas turned his hand over, intertwining their fingers. The gesture felt monumental. "What are we doing here, Rebecca?" Rebecca didn't have an answer that made sense. "I don't know, but I know I don't want to stop." He studied her face. "My life is complicated. I have a daughter who comes first. I work 3 jobs just to make rent. I can't offer you anything you're used to." Rebecca felt something break open. "I don't want fancy things. I want this. I want Tuesday and Thursday evenings. I want to help Harper with homework and talk to you about things that matter." He kissed her then, soft and careful and tentative. Rebecca kissed him back, tasting coffee and hope and possibility. When they pulled apart, she was crying. Lucas wiped her tears away. "Okay, let's figure this out together." The next weeks felt like discovering a forgotten language. They moved carefully, aware that Harper's well-being trumped everything. They didn't tell the girl yet, kept the surface the same, but underneath something was growing. Text messages throughout the day, Lucas calling during breaks, Rebecca finding excuses to stop by the building. She learned he sent money to his sister monthly, even though it meant skipping meals, that he taught himself repairs through YouTube, that he read to Harper every night, no matter how exhausted. Slowly, Rebecca began to help. She hired Lucas's nephew for an internship, made sure Lucas was offered a maintenance supervisor position with better pay and benefits, bought Harper new clothes as prizes for software work. Lucas saw through most of it. "You're managing me, trying to solve my problems with money." Rebecca admitted, "Yes. Is that wrong? I have resources you need." Lucas pulled her close. "I don't want to be your project. I don't want you with me because you feel sorry for me." The words stung. "That's not what this is," she said, voice wavering. "I know you think you are not enough," Lucas said. "I see it in how you work yourself to exhaustion, how you measure your worth in achievements. But Rebecca, you're enough just as you are, not because of what you've built, but because of who you are when you let yourself just be. The woman who sits on my floor eating pizza, who explains fractions with infinite patience, who cries when she thinks nobody's watching. That woman is more than enough." Rebecca felt something shatter and rebuild. "I don't know how to just be. I only know how to do, how to achieve, how to prove I'm valuable." "Then let me teach you," Lucas said. "We're all learning here. We're all figuring out how to be better." He kissed her again, and Rebecca felt herself relax into the possibility that she could be loved, not for what she'd overcome or built, but simply for being herself. But the world outside their bubble was less understanding. A photograph appeared in a local business blog. Someone had captured Rebecca and Lucas leaving a restaurant, Harper between them holding both their hands. The headline, "Tech CEO's Unlikely Romance, Slumming It or the Real Deal." The implications were clear. What was someone of Rebecca's stature doing with a maintenance worker? Rebecca's board saw the article, so did her investors and competitors. Her CFO called an emergency meeting, 8 people around a conference table. "This relationship, is it serious?" Rebecca felt anger flash. "My personal life is not board business." The board chair, Patricia Chen, leaned forward. "It becomes board business when it affects investor confidence. We have 3 major deals closing. You're the face of this company. Your choices reflect on all of us." Another board member cleared his throat. "Dating someone inappropriate raises questions about judgment. This man has financial problems that are public record. What happens when those become your problems?" Rebecca stood, fury making her voice shake. "Lucas is not a gold digger. He's one of the most honorable people I've ever met. The fact that you assume the worst says more about you than him." Patricia raised a hand. "Nobody's attacking him. We're concerned about optics, about timing. Can't this wait until after the expansion?" Rebecca said flatly, "No, it can't wait, because I've waited 10 years to feel anything real. I've sacrificed everything for this company, and I'm done pretending that success without connection is actually success." The room fell silent. Then perhaps we need to discuss whether you're still the right person to lead this company, one board member said, a threat barely veiled. Is that what this is? Rebecca asked quietly. Choose between my personal life and my professional life? Patricia looked uncomfortable. We're saying there are optics to consider. If you were more discreet, if you waited, if you signed a prenup protecting company assets, there are ways to manage this. Rebecca gathered her things. I'll think about what you've said, but I won't be managed like a liability. And if that makes me unsuitable to be CEO, then maybe we need a different conversation. She left, feeling hollowed out. Her phone buzzed. Lucas, Harper wants to know if you're coming for dinner tonight. Such a simple invitation, weighted now with everything it represented. She typed back, I'll be there, then sat at her desk and did something she'd never done. She began drafting a contingency plan, not for the company, for herself. What would she do if they forced her out? The calculations were complex. She had enough money to live comfortably for years. Her reputation would survive. She could consult, start something new, actually have time for a life. But who was she without this company? Without the title and the proof that she'd overcome her disability to achieve something remarkable? Without the armor of achievement to protect her? Her phone rang. Lucas? She almost didn't answer. Hello, Lucas said without preamble. The principal called. Harper's okay, but there was an incident. They want both parents there, and she asked for you, called you her almost mom. Rebecca grabbed her coat. I'm on my way. She made it to the elementary school quickly, parking illegally, found Lucas looking scared and angry. He reached for her hand. The principal led them to her office, where Harper sat, looking small and defiant, her right eye swelling shut, uniform torn. What happened? Rebecca asked, kneeling down. Harper looked at her father for permission. Lucas nodded. Tyler Mitchell said his dad said you were a charity case. Said Dad was only with you because you felt sorry for us. Said we were poor trash. I told him to take it back. He said no, so I hit him. Zero regret in her voice. Lucas made a sound between a laugh and a sob. Harper, we've talked about hitting. Harper said, but he was being mean about you and about Rebecca. I couldn't just let him say those things. The principal cleared her throat. Harper has been suspended for 3 days. Zero tolerance regardless of provocation. Lucas's face flushed. The other boy said terrible things and Harper is being punished? Rebecca stood, feeling cold anger. Let me understand. A child bullied Harper about her family's economic circumstances, made classist, derogatory comments, and she defended herself. Your response is to punish the victim while giving the bully detention? The principal's expression shifted. Recognition. Ms. Hayes, I understand your position, but there are rules. Rebecca leaned forward. Rules that protect bullies and punish children for standing up for themselves. Here's what's going to happen. Harper will not be suspended. Tyler will receive the same consequences Harper would have, plus mandatory counseling, and you will review your policies because right now your zero tolerance policy is really a protect the privilege policy. The principal's jaw tightened. I don't think you have the authority. Rebecca pulled out her phone. I donate $250,000 annually to this district. I sit on the board of the foundation that funds your programs. I have the superintendent's personal number. Would you like me to call him or would you like to reconsider? It was a power play, using money and influence as weapons. She felt Lucas stiffen beside her. The principal calculated. I'll review the incident report again. Perhaps there's room for a different interpretation. Rebecca didn't smile. I expect a call by end of day, and I want Tyler's parents informed. Their son's behavior is unacceptable. She took Harper's hand. Let's get you home. They walked out together, Lucas quiet and tense. She could feel his anger. Harper chattered nervously. When they reached Rebecca's car, Lucas finally spoke. That was quite a performance. Something in his voice made Rebecca's stomach drop. Not gratitude, judgment. I was protecting Harper. Lucas nodded slowly. By threatening the principal with your money, by using your influence like a club, making it clear that people like us only matter when people like you decide to care. You were standing up for her, but you reinforced it. proved exactly what Tyler's dad probably said, that we're a charity case, that we need someone rich to fight our battles because we can't do it ourselves. Rebecca felt slapped. So I should have let Harper be suspended, let that principal enforce policies that protect bullies? Lucas looked at her with distant eyes. You should have asked me how I wanted to handle it. Instead of assuming you knew best, instead of making decisions about my daughter without consulting me. You swooped in like a savior and made me feel useless. Harper tugged on Rebecca's hand. Please don't fight. I'm sorry I caused problems. This is my fault. Both adults pivoted. No, baby, Lucas said, kneeling. This isn't your fault. Adults are being complicated. Rebecca squeezed Harper's hand. We're not mad at you. You were brave today. She looked at Lucas. Can we talk tonight after Harper's asleep? Lucas nodded, expression closed. Come to the apartment around 8. Then he took Harper's hand gently but firmly, pulling her away. Rebecca watched them walk toward his truck, feeling distance yawn wider with each step. She'd been trying to help. Somehow, she'd made everything worse. That evening, she arrived carrying groceries. Lucas let her in without comment. The apartment felt different, colder. Harper was already asleep. Lucas took the groceries, put them away mechanically, gestured to the couch. They sat at opposite ends, the space feeling infinite. I'm sorry, Rebecca said. You're right. I should have consulted you. I overstepped. Lucas leaned forward. It's more than that. Today made me realize something. We live in completely different worlds. You solve problems with money and power. I solve them with hard work and patience. Those approaches aren't just different. They're fundamentally incompatible. Rebecca protested. That's not true. We've been making it work. Lucas shook his head. We've been existing in a bubble, but we haven't been living in the real world. The world where your board thinks I'm beneath you, where my daughter gets bullied because of the gap between us, where you can make a principal back down with a phone call, but I can't afford new shoes for Harper without your help. I don't care about any of that, Rebecca said desperately. Lucas looked at her with something like pity. But I do. I care that Harper is learning she only matters when someone rich decides to care. I care that I can't provide for her without accepting help that makes me feel small. I care that dating you means constantly being reminded of everything I can't give her. Rebecca felt tears burning. You're not a failure. You're the best father I've ever seen. Lucas cut her off. And it's still not enough. You made that clear today when you threw your money around, proving that my love, my work, my everything isn't sufficient on its own. I was trying to help, Rebecca said through tears, to use my privilege to make your life easier. Why is that wrong? Lucas stood, moved to the window. Because it makes me feel like I'm not enough, like you're with me out of pity, like I'm another problem for you to solve rather than a partner. Rebecca stood too, wanted to touch him, but wasn't sure she had the right. You're not a problem. You're the person who made me feel human again, who showed me love matters more than achievement. How can you think I see you as less than extraordinary? Lucas turned, tears on his face too. Because I see myself as less than every day, every moment I can't provide for Harper, every time I accept help knowing I could never reciprocate, every time I realize being with you means Harper getting opportunities I could never give her on my own. Rebecca asked, afraid she knew. So what are you saying? Lucas said, I'm saying I don't know how to be in a relationship where the power dynamics are this unbalanced, where every kind thing you do reminds me of everything I'm not, where loving you means accepting I'll never be your equal. You are my equal, Rebecca said fiercely, in every way that matters. You're kinder, more patient, a better parent. You see people in a way I had to relearn. How can you not understand? You make me better. Lucas pulled her close, held her while they both cried. I love you. God help me. I love you so much it terrifies me. But I don't know if love is enough when we're this different. When the world sees a mismatch, when my daughter gets bullied because of who I am and who you are together. Rebecca clung to him. Love has to be enough. You told me that. You said love is worth the risk, even when it hurts. I know what I said, Lucas whispered. But I'm scared. Scared you'll wake up one day and realize you deserve someone who can meet you as an equal, someone who doesn't need rescuing. Rebecca pulled back, looked him in the eyes. I don't want equal. I want you. I want Harper. I want this messy, complicated thing we're building. Please don't give up on us. Lucas kissed her forehead. I'm not giving up. I'm asking for time to figure out how to do this without feeling like I'm failing Harper every day. To find some way to contribute that doesn't involve handouts. Keep the Tuesday and Thursday afternoons for Harper. She needs that. But you and we need to figure out if this can work in the real world. It wasn't a breakup, not exactly, but it felt like one. She left that night feeling more alone than she had in years, drove back to her penthouse, walked into 3,000 square feet of achievement, removed her prosthetic leg, collapsed on her bed. For the first time since the accident, she wished she'd never built this empire. Maybe she was too damaged for anyone to truly love. Maybe the accident hadn't just taken her leg. Maybe it had taken her chance at a normal life, and everything since had been compensation for something that could never be recovered. Her phone buzzed, her CFO. The board wanted to meet in the morning. The European deal was falling apart, investors were nervous. She needed to make a choice, needed to prove the company was her priority, needed to show her judgment wasn't compromised. Rebecca stared at the message, feeling the weight of everything. 10 years of work, hundreds of employees counting on her. And on the other side, Lucas and Harper, love and connection. She typed back, I'll be there, then closed her eyes and tried to remember when success had stopped feeling like success and started feeling like a prison. The board meeting was brutal. The European deal had collapsed. 2 investors threatening to pull out, stock dropped 4%. Patricia Chen delivered the ultimatum with practiced professionalism. Rebecca, we've prepared a proposal. You take a 6-month leave of absence, focus on your personal life, get this out of your system. We'll bring in an interim CEO. When you come back, you'll have proven your judgment isn't compromised. Rebecca repeated flatly, a leave of absence, corporate speak for pushing me out. Another board member shook his head. It's giving you space to sort out priorities without destroying everything you've built. And if I refuse, Patricia sighed, then we'll be forced to call for a vote of no confidence. With the European deal falling apart and investor concerns, I think you know how that vote would go. Rebecca felt something cold settle. They were going to remove her one way or another, because she'd fallen in love with someone they deemed inappropriate, because she'd chosen connection over isolation. I need 24 hours, she said, to consider my options. Patricia nodded. Take 48, but understand what's at stake. This company is your legacy. Don't throw it away for something that might not even last. Rebecca left and went into her office, closed the door, stared at the awards lining her shelves, each one suddenly feeling hollow. Her phone rang. Lucas. She almost didn't answer. Hello, Lucas said without preamble. The principal called. Harper's suspension has been reduced to 1 day. Tyler is being transferred, and his parents are required to meet with counselors. You did that. Your threats and money and power. You protected my daughter in a way I never could have. He paused, took a shaky breath. And I hate that I resent you for it. I hate that I should be grateful but instead feel small and useless. Lucas, she started. He kept talking. I've been thinking all night about power dynamics and inequality, and my pride getting in the way. And I realized something. I'm afraid, not of you or your money or the differences. I'm afraid that if I let myself need you, if I let Harper need you, and then you decide this is too complicated or not worth it, it will break us both. Harper's already lost one mother. I can't let her lose another one. Rebecca felt tears streaming. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not giving up on this. Lucas laughed without humor. That's what people say, but life happens. Circumstances change. You have a board breathing down your neck about the inappropriate maintenance worker. What happens when the pressure becomes too much, when loving us costs you everything you've built? Rebecca looked around her office at the evidence of a decade of work, at the proof of her value, and she realized Lucas was asking the exact question the board had asked. What mattered more? They want me to take a leave of absence, she said, to sort out my priorities. If I refuse, They'll vote me out entirely. Everything I've worked for is being held hostage because I chose you." Lucas was silent. "What are you going to do?" Rebecca wiped her eyes, straightened her shoulders, felt clarity she hadn't experienced in years. "I'm going to choose us. I'm going to walk away from this company, from the title and the proof that I'm valuable, because you're right. Love does matter more than achievement. And if I have to prove that by giving up everything else, then that's what I'll do." "Rebecca, no." Lucas sounded panicked. "I can't let you do that. I can't be the reason you lose everything." Rebecca smiled through tears. "You're not the reason. They are. They're the ones making me choose. And I'm choosing the life where I get to have dinner with Harper and talk to you until midnight and be part of something that matters more than quarterly earnings. I'm choosing to be human instead of just successful." Lucas made a sound that might have been a so. "Are you sure? Because once you do this, you can't take it back. Your board will replace you. Everything you've built will continue without you." Rebecca nodded, though he couldn't see. "I know, and that's okay, because I'll build something better. Maybe consult. Maybe start something new. Maybe take time to actually live. But whatever I do, I want to do it with you and Harper as my foundation instead of my distraction." Lucas said, voice breaking, "I love you, God, Rebecca. I love you so much it terrifies me." Rebecca closed her eyes. "I love you too, both of you. And I'm done being afraid of what that means." They talked for another hour, making plans, acknowledging fears. Lucas admitted his pride might always struggle, but he'd work on it. Rebecca admitted she might struggle with using money to solve problems, but she'd learned to ask first. They were both broken in different ways, but maybe broken people could fit together in ways whole people couldn't. When Rebecca hung up, she felt lighter. She opened her laptop and began drafting her resignation letter. Not the leave of absence, a real resignation. Immediate, clean, 2 weeks to transition. She was done building an empire that required sacrificing the things that actually mattered. The next 2 weeks were chaos. The board tried to talk her out of it. Investors called for reassurances. Competitors circled. The media speculated. Tech CEO chooses love over career. From Forbes list to maintenance worker's girlfriend. Shocking decision. She ignored all of it, spent days transitioning responsibilities, training her replacement, spent evenings with Lucas and Harper, helping with homework, making dinner, existing in ordinary domesticity she'd denied herself for a decade. On her last day as CEO, Rebecca cleaned out her office. The awards stayed, they belonged to the company now. She took only personal items and the small cactus Harper's had given her. Her replacement stood in the doorway. "Are you sure about this?" Rebecca smiled. "More sure than I've been about anything in my life." She walked out of the building and on a Friday, carrying a small box, and felt nothing but relief. Lucas was waiting in the parking lot with Harper. When Harper saw her, the girl ran forward and threw her arms around Rebecca's waist. "You came! Dad said you might have to stay late." Rebecca knelt down, hugged Harper tight. "No more work stuff. From now on, I'm here." She looked up at Lucas, saw love and fear and hope. "I'm really here." 6 months later, Rebecca's life looked nothing like before. She'd moved into a modest 2-bedroom apartment in Lucas and Harper's neighborhood, not because she couldn't afford better, but because proximity mattered more than luxury. She'd started a nonprofit focused on math education for underprivileged students, using her connections and money to fund programs in schools that needed them most. Harper was her first official student, now testing 3 grade levels above her peers and tutoring other kids. Lucas had accepted a position as facilities manager at a community college, a job with better pay and benefits that Rebecca supported him in applying for. They moved slowly, cautiously, building a relationship on mutual respect rather than rescue. Lucas insisted on paying for dates. Rebecca learned to ask before helping, to respect boundaries. They fought sometimes about pride and privilege, but they also laughed more than Rebecca had laughed in years, made love with vulnerability she'd stopped believing in, talked about futures that included commitment, but moved at a pace they could both handle. Harper started calling Rebecca Becca, asking her to braid her hair, to come to school events as her bonus mom. Rebecca learned to navigate the complicated territory of being important to a child who still grieved her mother. On a Saturday morning, Rebecca woke up in Lucas's bed. Harper was already awake, standing in the doorway with a serious expression. "What's up, sweetheart?" Lucas asked. Harper climbed onto the bed between them, settling against Rebecca's side. "Are you going to marry my dad? Because I think you should. Then you could be my real mom instead of just my bonus mom." Rebecca felt her breath catch, looked over Harper's head at Lucas, who looked equally stunned. "That's a big question," Rebecca said carefully. "What makes you think about that?" Harper shrugged. "Kids at school asked if you were my stepmom. I said no, but I wished I could say yes, because you do all the mom things. You help with homework and come to my soccer games and make sure I eat vegetables. That's what moms do. Would you want to be my real mom?" Rebecca pulled Harper closer, tears burning. "I would be honored to be your mom, if that's what you want, and if your dad wants that too." She looked at Lucas, saw him working through emotions. He'd told her once that he felt guilty letting Harper attach to someone new as if it betrayed the memory of her biological mother. He reached an internal decision. "Harper, baby, Rebecca becoming your stepmom wouldn't mean forgetting your first mom. It would mean having two moms who love you, one watching from heaven, one here with us. Is that okay?" Harper nodded solemnly. "That's what I want. Two moms is better than one, especially when one is really good at math." Both adults laughed through tears. Rebecca kissed the top of Harper's head. "Then I guess your dad and I need to have a conversation." Harper bounced excitedly. "Does that mean you're going to get married? Can I be in the wedding? Can we have chocolate cake?" Lucas pulled them both into a hug. "Let's take it one step at a time, mathematician. But yes, chocolate cake is definitely negotiable." Harper seemed satisfied, announcing she was going to draw pictures of what she wanted the wedding to look like. In the silence, Rebecca and Lucas looked at each other with terror and joy. "That was unexpected," Lucas said. Rebecca laughed. "Was it? I think we both saw this coming." Lucas reached for her hand, intertwined their fingers. "Are we really doing this? Getting married? Becoming a family?" Rebecca felt the weight of that question, thought about the woman she'd been a year ago, alone in her penthouse, convinced isolation was safer. Thought about everything she'd given up and gained. "I think we already are a family. Marriage would just make it official." Lucas pulled her closer, rested his forehead against hers. "I can't promise easy. I still have debt to pay off. Harper will have teenage years. My pride will probably make me stupid sometimes. We'll have fights about money and how to navigate the world that sees us as unequal." Rebecca smiled. "And I'll probably try to solve problems with money when I should use patience. I'll struggle with not being defined by achievement. I'll have moments where I miss the identity I gave up. We're both works in progress." Lucas kissed her, soft and full of promise. Works in progress together, that's all anyone can ask for. Rebecca kissed him back, felt something settle in her chest, not the frantic drive for achievement, something calmer, deeper, more sustainable. Together, that sounded perfect. They married in the community center where Rebecca taught her math enrichment classes. Harper served as flower girl, ring bearer, and official wedding planner, having very specific opinions about every detail. The ceremony was small, just close friends, Lucas's sister and her family, a few former colleagues. Rebecca wore a simple white dress and didn't hide her prosthetic leg. Lucas wore a new suit. Harper wore a dress covered in stars because she never stopped dreaming of space. Rebecca's vows were simple. "I promise to see you, to respect you, to let you be strong, while acknowledging we're stronger together. To build a life based on love instead of fear. To be the partner you deserve and the mother Harper needs. To choose this family every day for the rest of my life." Whilst Lucas's vows matched hers. "I promise to let you in, to accept help without resentment, to see your strength without feeling diminished, to build a life where both our dreams matter, to be the partner you deserve and the father Harper needs, to choose this family every day for the rest of my life." When they kissed, Harper cheered loud enough to make everyone laugh. The reception was potluck, everyone bringing dishes. They danced to music from someone's phone. Harper fell asleep on Rebecca's lap during the last dance, exhausted from excitement. Rebecca carried her to the car. Lucas drove them home to their small house in a decent neighborhood they'd bought together. They put Harper to bed, still in her fancy dress, stood in the doorway watching her breathe. In their own bedroom, Rebecca removed her prosthetic without self-consciousness, something she never would have done a year ago. Lucas helped with the straps, a routine they'd developed. They climbed into bed, not for anything dramatic, but simply because they were tired and happy and grateful. Lucas pulled her close. Rebecca settled against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "We did it," she said. "We built something real." Lucas kissed the top of her head. "We did, and we're going to keep building it every day for the rest of our lives." Rebecca closed her eyes, feeling more complete than she'd ever felt. Despite being technically less whole than she'd once been, she'd lost a leg, lost a career, lost the identity she'd built around achievement, but she'd gained something infinitely more valuable. A family, a purpose beyond profit, a life defined by connection rather than accomplishment, permission to be imperfect, to need help, to love, and be loved without armor. Outside, the city continued its endless motion. Somewhere, people were chasing success and measuring worth by achievements. Rebecca understood that drive, had lived it for a decade, knew both its power and its cost. But here, in this small house with this small family, she discovered something that all the awards could never provide: being loved and letting yourself love in return, being seen completely by someone who chose to stay, being part of something larger than yourself. Harper would grow up knowing she was cherished. Lucas would continue healing, learning to accept help without losing himself. And Rebecca would keep evolving, finding new ways to be brilliant and vulnerable in equal measure. They would face challenges, would have conflicts about money and parenting and navigating a judgmental world. But they would face everything together as a family, built not from perfection, but from choosing each other again and again every single day. She'd spent 10 years alone after her accident, convinced isolation was strength. Now she understood that true strength wasn't about standing alone. It was about letting people stand with you, about accepting help without shame, about building connections that made you vulnerable, but also made you whole. In the darkness, with Lucas's breathing steady beside her and Harper sleeping safely down the hall, Rebecca felt a peace she'd never known in her penthouse, a contentment that had nothing to do with achievement or overcoming odds or proving anyone wrong. She was exactly where she was supposed to be, not despite her struggles, but because of them, not in spite of her losses, but having learned from them, not perfect, but perfectly loved. And that was the real superpower Harper had seen all along. Not the prosthetic leg, not the CEO title, but the courage to keep trying, to keep opening up, to keep believing that somewhere, somehow, there were people who would see all of you, the strong parts and the broken parts, and choose to stay anyway. She'd been alone for so long, but she wasn't alone anymore. The story of Rebecca Hayes and Lucas Bennett reveals a profound lesson about the courage to embrace vulnerability and choose love over achievement. Rebecca, a brilliant CEO who built an empire to shield herself from the pain of loss and betrayal, found her carefully constructed walls crumbling in a stalled elevator when Harper, Lucas's 7-year-old daughter, saw her prosthetic leg as a superpower. This moment, coupled with Lucas's quiet strength and Harper's unguarded heart, taught Rebecca that true worth lies not in titles or accolades, but in the messy, beautiful connections that make us human. Her decision to walk away from her company, defying a board that demanded she prioritize success over love, shows that real strength is found in risking everything for those who see you, not your achievements, but your authentic self. Lucas's struggle with pride and inequality, and their shared commitment to building a family despite a judgmental world, remind us that love requires daily choices to bridge differences and honor each other's scars. This story urges us to let go of the armor we wear, to value connection over control, and to find purpose in the people who choose to stay. What resonates with you in Rebecca and Lucas's journey? Have you ever faced a choice between success and love, or found strength in vulnerability? Share your stories in the comments. We'd love to hear how you've embraced connection in your life. If their tale of choosing family over empire touched you, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to join our community. Let's keep sharing stories that inspire us to prioritize love, build bridges across differences, and find courage in the imperfect, beautiful act of being human together.